Hey folks. Alright, so this is well, the it's the fourth video for the first unit, but this is the second video where I'm talking about the salmon article. Um so in the last video we talked a little bit about artificial selection, and we talked a little bit about genetically modified organisms. And I was trying to find a really good example that's real world, right? So I was successful in that, and I'm gonna pull this up right here. I'm just gonna read this out loud. The first thing I want to say though is genetic engineering is GMOs. There, you can use them interchangeably, right? So if you see something that says genetic engineering, that's talking about genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Okay, so it says both genetic engineering and artificial selection allow humans to change a species so that the members of the species are better suited for human needs. However, the way they get that change is different. Artificial selection selects for traits that the species already has, whereas genetic engineering can actually create new traits. In artificial selection, scientists breed individuals that have the desired trait. For example, scientists may breed with fruit. We call this cross-pollinate, right? So they're not really having sex, obviously. So we're cross-pollinating different fruit. So scientists may cross-pollinate only the highest yielding crops with one another. This means that certain crops with really good DNA are going to create more fruit. So what they're doing is they're cross-pollinating a crop that produces a ton of fruit with another crop that produces a ton of fruit. Okay, so the result is a population of plants that all produce a ton of fruit. So then the farmer can sell more and make more money. Through selective breeding, scientists are able to change the traits in the population. Through selective breeding, scientists are able to change the traits in the population. But these traits aren't like, we haven't added new traits. They are already present in these animals or in these plants, right? The ability for them to get abundant fruit was there. We just cross-pollinated to make it to happen more often. Genetic engineering or GMOs is different because we, in a lot of ways, can create new traits, right? And that's where things like broccoli and cauliflower, and I forget the last one we read, have been created because of genetic engineering. So it says in genetic engineering, scientists use tools of DNA to directly change the genes of the animal or the plant. One way to change the genes is to insert genes from other organisms into that organism. For example, cotton. Some cotton plants now, with genetic engineering, have a gene that can essentially make it so that a bacterial toxin is released in the cotton, so then moths and caterpillars won't eat it because they get sick. So the cotton will release this toxin and it will kill moths and caterpillars. So then the moths and caterpillars won't eat the cotton, so it saves the farmer some money, so he's not losing all of his crops or her crops to moths and caterpillars. So the toxin or the toxic cotton plants are different from their engineered ancestors, right? So what this means is that we created this trait. We humans created this trait, and we have changed their genetics. Whereas artificial selection, again, a trait we're making the trait happen more, but we didn't create that trait, right? Humans are coming in and actually creating these traits. Another example, guys, of artificial selection that we don't think about is dogs, right? Humans have been breeding dogs for hundreds of years, and we've done artificial selection where we breed dogs that have certain traits, and then the offspring will, like, that's how we get these weird miniature dogs. I think that's how we got pugs, right? We breed them. And there's lots of cons that I'm not getting into right now, bad things that happen because of that. Like the pug's nose. They can't breathe. Alright, so pugs are my favorite, by the way. I have to, they're so cute. They're so crazy looking that they're cute. Okay, so let's go back to our questions for the week. We've got question 1, the definition of artificial selection. Question 2, oops, sorry guys, I'm in the wrong spot. My bad. I'll put that here. There we go. Alright, artificial selection. Question 2, why could artificial selection be a good thing when it comes to the food that we eat? I want you to come up with your own answer here for me, guys. So artificial selection can, not always, but can be good for people because, so you're going to take a minute here and finish that. You can use anything I've said in this video. You can do your own research and figure out why. You can take anything from the article. Just get something down for me. Pull a fact somewhere. If you need to pause the video to write, go ahead and pause it. I'm going to move on to question 3. What has replaced artificial selection since the 1990s? Genetic engineering, you can say that, or genetically modified organisms. It's the same thing. It's the same answer. I totally spelled engineering wrong. Alright, we're making our way through. What animal was genetically modified by the company Aqua Advantage? Well, it's in the title, folks. Genetically modified salmon. Alright, so go back and salmon. Here's the deal. These salmon, I believe, were the first animals to be genetically modified. We've genetically modified crops like fruits and vegetables since the 90s. Also, one thing I want to say that's really important, if you go into a grocery store, you have an organic section and then a regular section, right? You notice typically that the organic section is a little bit more expensive these days. The difference between the organic section and the regular section, guys, is genetic engineering. Bam! If something says organic, it has not been genetically modified in any way. It's all natural. If a product doesn't say organic, it is most likely genetically modified. You just don't know it. Because in most states, it doesn't have to say on it that it was genetically modified. In my mind, whenever I pick anything up in the grocery store and it doesn't have the word organic stamped on the box or stamped on it in some way, I know that it's genetically modified, right? This actually is, this will probably scare you a little bit, but percentage of food in American grocery stores that is genetically modified. 70 to 80% of all the food in the United States that we eat is genetically modified. So you just don't know it. And your parents might not know it. But that's the way it is. Anyway, so to go back to the article, these salmon were the first animals that were genetically altered. Okay? Alright, I'm going to continue to read. The next question, let me just go back here. It says, oh, okay, so this is the paragraph. You're going to have to write a paragraph for me. So, I'm going to keep on reading here, guys, and then we'll talk about the paragraph in the next video. Okay, so in recent years, scientists have created something called genetically modified crops, and now genetically modified animals, like salmon, have become an alternative to artificial selection. So in a lot of ways, genetically modified organisms have replaced artificial selection. Even though genetically... Sorry, what's my cat? Hey, Nick, come here. Come here. The kids don't want to hear you whine. I don't even want to hear you whine. Come here. Come here. She's crazy. She whines, but then she won't come here. Okay, so even though genetically modified crops have been part of the human diet since the 1990s, genetically modified foods are often seen as really bad. So typically if you see it on TV or if you read about it, it's not seen as a good thing. If the word GMO, if you use it around adults, they're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. But most adults don't realize that it's like almost all the food that we eat too. So it's kind of interesting that most people are like, ooh, GMOs. But we eat almost all of it is GMOs. So there's a lack of public trust in the safety of GMOs. So the typical adult, at least for the last 20 years, you say GMO, they're like, nope, no thanks, don't want to even mess with that. Shh, come here, Nick. Nick, come here. Come here. Genetically modified salmon, Aqua Advantage Salmon, that's the name of the company that has designed the DNA for these salmon. Also, these big companies can own the DNA to these animals, which is, to me, we're talking about ethics in this unit, what's right and what's wrong. If you talk to me, if you have a conversation with me, a human should never be able to own the DNA of a living organism. That is, like, not okay. It's very, very scary stuff. Like, to own a patent or to have a patent out for a living thing, that, to me, we're getting into unethical territory there. At least in my personal view. Okay, so genetically modified salmon, engineered by the company Aqua Bounty Tech, may become the first genetically modified animal approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration. Like other genetically modified foods, these salmon are surrounded by controversy. People, again, they're not for these GMOs typically. Many people avoid genetically modified foods because we do not know the long-term consequences of eating these foods, right? So what this means is, okay, I have a GMO, I'm eating GMOs all through my kid years, maybe like 10, from 10 on, you know. Let me back up. Say you eat GMOs your entire life, right? From babyhood to adulthood to old age. We don't know if these GMOs, a lot of people are like, well, what if it makes you more at risk for cancer? Or what if it makes you more at risk for heart disease? We don't know because they haven't been around long enough to know the long-term effects for health. So many people avoid genetically modified food because we don't know the long-term consequences. Some scientists think that health problems will arise if we eat genetically modified meat for many, many years. It makes people nervous to eat something that has not been around a long time because nobody knows what the health consequences might be later down the road. I'm going to stop my video here. There will be 2 more videos, guys. There's 1 more video to go over the rest of this article and 1 video to go over the paragraph I'm going to have you write. Peace. I hope this video helps. Keep going on. Keep chugging along, guys. You got this. All right. Talk to you soon.